welcome to the deep dive. If you're tuning in today, you're the kind of person who really craves a thorough understanding of the world. You want the insights, the aha moments, but without drowning in overwhelming information.
Exactly. You want the deep knowledge, but delivered in a way that respects your time.
Right. And today we are throwing out the rule book. We're looking at the ultimate automotive showdown. Internal combustion engines, ICE versus electric vehicles.
But we aren't testing them in stop-and-go traffic.
No, definitely not at a suburban grocery store charging station.
Yeah.
We are throwing these technologies into the most extreme, punishing laboratories on Earth, which is professional motorsport.
And we have an incredibly diverse stack of sources to guide us today. We pulled a really fascinating YouTube documentary transcript by New Scientist that covers the absolute mayhem of Rallycross.
Love Rallycross.
Right, it's chaos. We also have a detailed technical breakdown from blackcircles.com. That one compares the pinnacles of circuit racing, so Formula One and Formula E.
Yeah, the circuit stuff.
And finally, we're utilizing a translated Italian technical analysis that literally takes us up the sides of mountains in hill climbs and then deep into the brutal desert of the Dakar Rally.
It's a massive stack of data, and we've sifted through all of it so you don't have to. The goal here isn't to declare a single absolute winner between gas and electric. The physics and the track conditions are they're far too complex for a simple binary choice.
Yeah, it's not a zero-sum game. Our mission is to understand exactly where and why each technology excels based on the laws of physics and engineering.
And what that ultimately means for the vehicles you might be driving 10 years from now.
Okay.
Let's unpack this. I want to start with the most famous, glamorous streets in motorsport, Monaco.
Oh yeah, the ultimate test of precision.
Right. And the Black Circles article gives us a staggering statistic that it stopped me in my tracks. When Formula One races on the Monaco street circuit, a car completes a lap in roughly 1 minute and 10 seconds.
Which is blisteringly fast.
Insanely fast. But when a Gen 3 Formula E car races on that exact same layout, it takes about 1 minute and 32 seconds.
Oh.
Yeah. That is a massive 22-second gap per lap. In the racing world, 22 seconds isn't just a gap, it's an entirely different time zone.
It really is. And to understand why that massive gulf in time exists, we have to look under the hood, both literally and philosophically. What's fascinating here is the sheer difference in power and design freedom.
Right, because they are playing by completely different rules.
Exactly. Formula One is the undisputed benchmark for raw, terrifying speed. Those cars rely on a highly complex hybrid turbo V6 engine pushing out around 1,000 horsepower.
1,000.
Yeah. And they hit top speeds of 360 kilometers per hour, which is about 223 miles per hour.
And they do it with immense aerodynamic downforce. For anyone not spending their weekends reading aerodynamics textbooks, downforce is essentially using the air flowing over the car to create this invisible hand that just crushes the vehicle into the track.
It's what lets them take corners at completely unnatural speeds.
Speeds that would send a normal car flying right into the barriers. And crucially, F1 teams build their own bespoke chassis. They literally have hundreds of engineers constantly tweaking tiny carbon fiber winglets just to shave off fractions of a second.
But Formula E takes a completely different approach. The Gen 3 cars are pushing a maximum of about 470 horsepower, or roughly 350 kilowatts.
So less than half the power of F1.
Right. And their top speed tops out around 280 kilometers per hour, so 174 miles per hour. But the big difference, unlike the limitless aerodynamic warfare of S1, Formula E uses a spec chassis.
Meaning every single team uses the exact same physical car body.
Exactly. The teams are only allowed to develop the internal powertrain and the software that manages the energy.
And that spec chassis completely changed the engineering game. Formula E isn't actually trying to beat Formula One at a speed contest. They have a completely different mission. F1 is about raw performance pedigree, ultimate engineering freedom.
Right, the pinnacle of speed.
But Formula E was built from the ground up to promote electric mobility. They specifically race on temporary tight street circuits in city centers to bring the message of sustainability directly to urban audiences.
Their focus isn't aerodynamic perfection at all.
No, it's energy management. The drivers have to constantly manage their battery usage and master regenerative braking just to ensure they don't run out of juice before the checkered flag.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, the physical connection to the track reflects those divergent missions perfectly. I mean, the tires tell the whole story.
They really do. The tire breakdown in the Black Circle source highlights the divide beautifully. Formula One uses Pirelli tires, and they bring 5 different dry compounds to a race weekend,
Ranging from very soft and fast to hard and durable.
plus the specific wet weather tires. But the fascinating part is that these tires are designed with high degradation in mind. They are engineered to wear out quickly.
Which forces the teams to make mandatory pit stops.
Exactly. It turns tire strategy into a dramatic, high-stakes, race-deciding chess match. It's a system designed entirely around creating strategic entertainment and maximizing grip for just a few fleeting laps.
But Formula E operates on the exact opposite philosophy. They use hand-cooked tires, and they only get one single, highly durable, all-weather compound for the entire race.
Just one tire for everything.
Rain or shine,
Right.
wet track or dry asphalt, they use the same tire.
Plus, the tires are made with bio-sourced materials, and there are absolutely 0 pit stops for tire changes during a race. Formula E sacrifices all that strategic drama of pit stops to align with an eco-friendly mission.
They want to prove that a sustainable tire can handle the brutal, instant torque of an electric motor in varying weather conditions.
Without needing to be thrown into a scrap heap after 20 minutes, it's a test of life cycle sustainability versus a test of fleeting, absolute grip.
Which raises a really important question. What happens when you take these two radically different philosophies, internal combustion and fully electric, and you force them to race against each other at the exact same time on the exact same track?
Oh, man. That brings us to our second source, the New Scientist breakdown of Rallycross. For those who aren't familiar, Rallycross is absolute mayhem in the best possible way.
Pure chaos.
We're talking 4-minute, high adrenaline, short, sharp sprint races. The tracks are this chaotic mix of asphalt and loose dirt, and there is a lot of physical contact.
Cars bumping doors, dirt flying everywhere.
It's incredibly visceral. And for the 2024-2025 season, the FIA World Rallycross Championship launched what they called the Battle of Technologies. They allowed fully electric cars to race head-to-head against traditional internal combustion engine cars.
It's the perfect laboratory for direct confrontation. And the tale of the tape here is wild. The EVs are producing a massive 680 horsepower, but they weigh 440 kilos. While the gas cars produce slightly less power at 600 horsepower, but they are significantly lighter, weighing in at 12,080 kilos.
We really need to define the difference between power and torque here, because that's the crucible of this entire experiment. Power, or horsepower, generally dictates your top speed. Torque is the actual twisting force that gets you off the starting line.
And that's where the technologies diverge.
Right. An internal combustion engine has to build up its revolutions, its RPMs, to find its maximal torque. It takes time. But an electric motor delivers its maximum torque the literal millisecond the driver touches the pedal.
In a rallycross, that instant torque is everything.
Yeah.
Getting to the first corner first in these short sprint races gives a driver a 70% chance of winning the entire heat.
70%.
Yeah. At the starting light, the EV launches like a rocket. The gas cars simply cannot match that initial explosive burst of acceleration.
They just get left behind off the line.
Exactly. And the EVs also dominate on the long straights and in higher altitude tracks, like the one in Montalegre at 1,000 meters, where the electric motors don't suffer from thinner air.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. You might think the EVs just run away with it and dominate the whole season, but remember that weight difference you mentioned?
The 160 kilos.
The gas cars are 160 kilos lighter. That is roughly 350 pounds. I found the math on that staggering. 160 kilos isn't just a heavy suitcase in the trunk. That's like carrying 2 full-grown adult passengers in a race where fractions of a second matter.
You cannot cheat physics. That extra 160 kilos in the electric car is largely due to the heavy battery packs. And that weight creates massive inertia.
Because they struggle to stop.
Right. When an EV driver approaches a sharp dirt corner at 100 miles an hour, they have to start braking noticeably earlier because that heavy battery fundamentally wants to keep moving in a straight line.
Meanwhile, the lighter internal combustion cars are incredibly nimble. The source details how the gas cars can brake much later and dive much deeper into the twisty sections of the circuit.
They dance right around them.
Exactly. They might lose the drag race off the starting line, but they claw that time back by dancing through the tight corners where the EVs struggle to manage their own mass.
And the outcome of this clash is quite telling. The sources reveal that Johan Kristoffersson won the 2024 title driving an internal combustion car.
A gas car won.
Yeah. Ultimately, on these tortuous, mixed surface tracks, extreme lightness and agility were able to overcome brute electric power and instant torque.
And it wasn't just a battle of physics on the track either. The New Scientist source highlighted a real cultural divide among the fans in the grandstands.
Which is fascinating to see play out.
It really is. The younger generations are drawn to the cutting-edge EV technology. They see it as the necessary future. It aligns with the sustainability goals mentioned by team owners who want to look their kids in the eye regarding climate change.
But on the flip side, you have the traditionalists. They miss the sensory experience, the smell of the unburned racing fuel, the deafening, chest-rattling roar of the combustion engine.
Yeah, the EVs are fast, but they emit this high-pitched whine. For some fans, the lack of noise drains the adrenaline right out of the sport.
Motorsport is having to balance its loud, visceral heritage with the undeniable reality of a changing climate and evolving road car technology.
And the organizers are doing their best to be impartial, offering a grid where both technologies can coexist and fans can just root for whichever philosophy they prefer.
Which is a great segue to taking this battle of physics even further. We've talked about horizontal inertia on street circuits and dirt tracks, but what happens when you take these same heavy batteries and ask them to fight something even bigger?
Oh, gravity.
Yes. The translated Italian technical analysis dives into extreme environments, starting with hill climbs, like the legendary Pikes Peak, and drag racing.
This is where we enter the domain of pure torque, and it's where the electric vehicle becomes an absolute monster. If we look at the physics of a hill climb or a drag race, you're fighting two things: gravity and inertia.
And as we mentioned with Rallycross, an internal combustion engine has to build up RPMs. And if it's turbocharged, the driver has to wait for the exhaust gases to spool up the turbo.
Turbo lag.
Exactly, turbo lag. There's a delay between pressing the pedal and actually getting the power.
But the EV just goes 100% of the torque is available at 0 RPM.
But the altitude factor is what truly separates them in a hill climb. As you drive up a mountain, the air gets thinner. An internal combustion engine literally breathes air to mix with fuel and create small explosions.
That's right, it needs oxygen.
The Italian source notes that a gas car loses about 10% of its power for every 1,000 meters of elevation it climbs.
It is quite literally suffocating as it goes up. By the time an ICE car reaches the summit of a mountain like Pikes Peak, which sits at over 4,300 meters, it's gasping for air. It's just a shadow of the powerful machine that started at the bottom of the mountain.
But an electric vehicle does not need oxygen to generate power. It operates in a completely closed loop. It delivers the exact same mic-dropping brutal power at the starting line as it does in the freezing thin air at the 4,300-meter summit.
That's incredible.
This independent relationship with the atmosphere is why EVs currently hold the absolute records for 0 to 100 kilometer per hour acceleration, doing it in under 1 second.
Under 1 second.
Yeah, and it's why they hold the outright all-time record at Pikes Peak. In a fight purely against gravity and thin air, electricity is currently unmatched.
Okay, so EVs conquered the mountains because they don't need to breathe, but then the Italian source pivots to the Dakar Rally. This is the grueling, punishing, trackless desert. And honestly, when I think of EVs, I think of range anxiety.
Oh, absolutely.
The idea of taking a battery-powered car into the middle of the desert, hundreds of miles from a charging plug, racing for weeks on end, it just seems like an absolute deal breaker.
And it would be for a standard EV. But Audi came up with an engineering solution for their RSQ e-tron that is nothing short of a paradigm shift.
What did they do?
They realized the best way to beat the desert wasn't to build a better gas engine or a bigger battery, but to completely rethink the entire drivetrain.
Okay.
The vehicle is driven entirely by electric motors on the axles. However, it carries an internal combustion engine on board.
Wait, so it has a gas engine too?
Yes, but the key insight here is that the gas engine is not connected to the wheels at all. It acts strictly as an onboard generator, running at its most efficient, steady RPM to constantly charge the batteries while the car is racing through the desert.
To a layperson, this sounds crazy. It's a paradox of weight. You are carrying the weight of a heavy battery pack, plus the weight of gallons of liquid fuel, plus the weight of a combustion engine.
It sounds incredibly heavy.
Why go through all that incredibly complex engineering? Why not just use a traditional gas engine connected to a gearbox like everyone else?
The source points to the sand dunes as the ultimate answer, right?
Yes. The dunes are a driver's worst nightmare. Driving a 2-ton vehicle in deep, soft sand requires constant, unbroken momentum.
You can't stop.
You can't even hesitate. If a driver in a traditional gas-powered car shifts gears, there is a fraction of a second where power stops going to the wheels. Or if their RPMs drop too low, the torque vanishes.
And the heavy tires just dig in.
Exactly. The car gets bogged down. Once you sink to your axles in the Dakar, you are waiting hours for a tow truck, and your race is effectively over.
So Audi realized that the efficiency gained by letting the electric motors perfectly manage the sand outweighs all that physical mass of carrying three power systems.
Exactly. Because the Audi does not have a gearbox or a mechanical drive shaft connecting the front and rear wheels, it bypasses the limitations of traditional cars.
So it's not physically linking the wheels together? Right. It relies entirely on an electronic all-wheel drive system. The onboard computers can synchronize the electric motors on the front and rear axles in mere milliseconds.
Milliseconds.
They can detect loss of traction on a single wheel and adjust the power output almost instantly, which prevents the wheel spin that digs a car into a sandy grave.
The source describes it as allowing this massive, heavy vehicle to magically float over the soft dunes. The electronics manage the traction so perfectly that the mechanical limitations of a traditional gas car are completely bypassed.
It's changing the game for off-roading.
Think about what this means for consumer vehicles in the future. Just imagine off-road trucks with no differentials to snap, no mechanical drive shafts braking on rocks, just intelligent motors at each axle doing the thinking for you.
And the proof is in the results. This isn't just a whiteboard theory. This specific technological advantage led legendary driver Carlos Sainz to win the Dakar Rally in 2024.
Wow.
It marked the first ever victory for an electrified vehicle in the absolute harshest, longest desert endurance race on the planet.
So what does this all mean for you? We've covered a massive amount of ground today, from the pristine, strategic streets of Monaco to the chaotic dirt of Rallycross, up the suffocating heights of Pikes Peak, and across the endless dunes of the Dakar Desert.
Yeah, and if we synthesize everything these sources are telling us, it becomes clear that this isn't just sports trivia. Motorsport has always been the ultimate research and development laboratory for the cars we eventually drive to work or the grocery store.
Right.
The sources show a very clear split in where we are technologically today. If you're looking for raw top speed, lightweight agility in tight corners, and the complex strategy of fuel and tire management, the internal combustion engine, especially as it transitions towards sustainable fuels, still holds the crown.
Like we saw with Formula One's sheer speed and the lighter gas cars dancing through the twisty sections of Rallycross.
Exactly.
But if your environment demands instant, explosive acceleration off the line, total immunity to high altitudes, or the kind of millisecond perfect traction management required to float over desert sand, electric propulsion is absolutely undeniable.
We saw that with the sub-1 second drag times, the hill climb records, and Audi's historic Dakar win.
They are two different tools, excelling at entirely different jobs. It really reframes the whole gas versus electric debate. It's not about which is universally better. It's about what you are asking the machine to do.
Recognizing those specific strengths is crucial as we look at how infrastructure, tire manufacturing, and vehicle design will evolve over the next decade.
I want to thank you for joining us on this deep dive. It's a lot of complex physics, weight dynamics, and engineering to wrap your head around, but hopefully it gives you a much clearer picture of what's actually happening beneath the hood of the future. I want to leave you with a final provocative thought to mull over, something to explore on your own. Right now, as we've seen in our sources, we're mostly watching electric motors being forced into traditional racing formats, racing on tracks that were originally designed for gas cars a century ago. But if Formula E's software keeps evolving and Audi's traction management proves that heavy mechanical drive shafts are completely obsolete, what happens to motorsport when engineers completely stop trying to make an EV act like a traditional car and instead design an entirely new type of racing circuit? Imagine a track built vertically or with impossible angles that exploits maneuvers a gas car couldn't even physically attempt without stalling or starving for fuel. Keep that in mind next time you see a race. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.